Hey people, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a stunning fish, the Black Phantom Tetra. To start things off, we're going to go over the backstory and history of these wonderful fish. They were first discovered in the early 1900s. These fish are native to South America in places like Bolivia, areas of western Brazil, and Paraguay. They can be found in clear waters that have relatively fast-moving flow to them, but in other areas, depending on where they're from, they also prefer slow-moving, more murky water, lots of vegetation, tree roots that are submerged in the water, lots of leaf litter, things like that. Now, when these fish are first discovered, and a lot of the times in the wild when you find these, they have a more reddish color to them, with their name Black Phantom coming more from that black dark mark behind their gills that kind of resembles an eye patch and almost looks like a phantom kind of looking at you. Once they were introduced to the hobby though, a lot of breeders bred them to be more darker in color just to separate them from the Substrate Tetra, because if these are both reddish, it's kind of hard to tell them apart minus that one black marker. Moving on to the care of these fish, the Black Phantom Tetra's lifespan is around 5 years, but like all the fish we keep, that's going to depend on the quality of care you provide them and what the water's like, what you feed them, and that's all going to affect how long your Black Phantoms will live. As for size, they don't get super big. They max out on an average range of 1.4 inches to about 1.75 inches. So they're well suited for people with smaller tanks. Black Phantom Tetra care is also fairly low maintenance, which makes them a good beginner species because they can also adapt to a decent range of conditions depending on your expertise with keeping fish and how often you can devote to taking care of your tanks. Plus, they're more of a non-aggressive fish by nature, which makes them really easy to pair with other things. Black Phantom Tetras, like most tetras, are also a shoaling fish, so they're going to like to be kept in groups of 5 or more, and you're often just going to catch them swimming around together in your tank. Tetras are, for the most part, a peaceful fish. I personally have not noticed mine having any type of overly aggressive tendencies towards their tank mates, but other people might have different experiences. So like with all fish you keep, just keep an eye on them, observe them. If you see that you've got maybe a jerk fish or a jerk group of fish, accordingly, you might have to have them in their own tank. Only in the tank size, you'll see that's not really a big deal because they can go in a smaller size tank too. Typically, if you're seeing them biting or nipping at fins, it's a sign that can help indicate to you that your Black Phantom Tetras are under stress or they're just feeling threatened. So it might be that there is another fish in that tank that's just being overly territorial and not allowing these fish to peacefully live in your tank. When your phantoms are nice and calm, at peace, they're going to be staying more mid-level of your tank, and they'll swim around nice and slow. We interrupt your regularly scheduled video to remind you that we have merch. If you go to lefty32138.sellfy.store, you'll be brought to our lovely merch store, where we have a bunch of different t-shirts designed by me, along with some bags, some coffee mugs, because we all need that kick of caffeine throughout the day, and then of course a good old water bottle to refresh us from all that caffeine. We do occasionally do limited run shirts, which will only be available for a certain amount of time before they disappear. Keep an eye out if you want any of those when they come out. And we will now return you back to your video. On tank parameters, as far as a tank size for these, remember if I said you had to remove the whole group, don't freak out, because these guys can go in something as small as a 10-gallon tank. No matter how many tanks you have, you could always find space for a 10-gallon. I could put one right here if I had to. So group of 5 or 6 of these would be great in a 10-gallon tank if you just want to have them alone with some plants, which again makes them a great beginner fish because of the smaller size tank. Temperature wise, again, typical temperature range for tetras, 72, 82. My sweet spot for communities, if you're putting these communities, is 76, 77 Fahrenheit. Again, perfect for beginners if you want to do a community tank. One thing to note though with your water temperature, with all fish, you're going to want to make sure it stays more at a constant level. You're not going to want that temperature fluctuating around a lot more than a couple degrees constantly, just because that alone will reduce the quality of life of your fish, stress them out, and just shorten that lifespan on you. It's okay if it fluctuates 1 or 2 degrees throughout the course of the day, but if it's constantly going up and down every day, check your heater, check your surroundings. Maybe your air conditioner blows too much on it, maybe it's getting more sunlight, warming it up. Just make sure that the temperature stays at a more constant rate for your fish. pH range, because these fish are again from the Amazon, just like other fish from that area, they're going to want to stay more on the acidic side of the scale to a basic 7.0. Range for wild caught tank raise really is anywhere from 5 to 7.5 max. Normally for my tetras though, I do like to keep them between 6, 5, and 7 because I do like to also mix my fish so I can have multiple different kinds in my tanks. If you're just starting out, your water is anywhere within that range, you should be okay. Just keep an eye on them for any stress type situations, especially when you get higher than that 7.5. It might get too basic for them. Personally, I wouldn't go higher than 7. Substrate for these really doesn't matter because they're not going to be like other fish that are digging in your substrate or rubbing up against it, digging through it, looking for food, like other fish might, like your cory cats. So really, whatever you want to use, it comes down more of a personal preference, and you'll be good. I've done, in my aquariums that have these, I've done gravel, I've done pebbles, I've done sand, and it doesn't really seem to have any discernible difference with how the fish behave. You can also keep plants with these guys. They're not one of those fish that's going to constantly gnaw at and eat your plants as long as you're feeding them well. Typically, people are going to put hornwort, anubias, java fern, other easy plants like that, and kind of try and replicate what they would see in nature. But again, as long as the plants are going to live in your temp and pH range, you don't have to worry about what you're putting in your food. These are extremely easy. They're not a picky eater. In the wild, they are going to be eating more things like insects, worms, and small, more micro crustaceans, but they're an omnivore. So in your tank, typical flake foods and pellets will work fine for them. If you're going the pellet route, just make sure it's not something too big because they don't have super big mouths. Things like a Hikari micro pellet or a North Fin community or an extreme nano, for me, pellet-wise, would be perfect for these guys. Of course, with all fish, though, they're going to benefit from a varied diet. So you can, if you have access to it, throw some frozen foods, freeze-dried foods, even some live foods in there. Freeze-dried and frozen, I would say bloodworms, daphnia. Live food, if you want to throw some baby brine in there, you'd be fine. But really, any freeze-dried or frozen foods would be good as well. I've occasionally given mine the freeze-dried krill from Hikari, and I just kind of break it up into pieces because they are whole-looking krill basically, and they do seem to enjoy it. Tank mate wise, Black Phantoms are super easygoing fish that just want to share your tank with other peaceful fish if you're going to keep them in a community setting. I've got them in this 40 here, and it's got loaches, it's got cory cats, it's got Congo tetras, Danios in it. It's just a mixed mosh of different kinds of fish from all over the place, and my Black Phantoms get along with all of them. I would say just try and avoid things that aren't overly territorial, so no aggressively territorial cichlids. I would avoid those and other fish like them. Common tank mates you're going to see for these is pretty much any other tetra of similar sized celestial pearl danios. Really any of the rasboras would be fine. Honey gouramis, beta fish even, cory cats, snail lovers. These guys go with snails, you don't usually have to worry. As always, thank you all so much for the support on the videos. Please do leave a comment down below. Let me know if you have kept Black Phantoms before, if you love them, if you hate them. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next one.